Good evening, everyone. I'm Riley King, and welcome to the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. Man arrested after standoff at Manchester apartment. A 39-year-old man was arrested Wednesday morning after a standoff at a Manchester apartment. Manchester police said they were called to 471 Maple Street at about 3:30 a.m. on a report of a domestic incident. Police said a 27-year-old woman left the second-floor apartment while the man barricaded himself inside. Police said they determined that the woman had been assaulted before they arrived, and when they tried to make contact with the man, who was identified as Ronald Cross, he made suicidal statements. A SWAT team unit was called, and Maple Street was closed between Hanover and Concord Streets. Police said Cross refused to answer officers or leave the apartment, so the door was breached and he was taken into custody without incident. Cross was charged with domestic simple assault and resisting arrest. He is scheduled to be arraigned Thursday. Crime rates down in Manchester over past year. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Andy Hirschberger.
Burst out the door when it matters most. For more than a decade, he's been right there, everywhere. And when American jobs are on the line, he leads the charge. ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast, and we thank you.
Well, Sean, the crimes are broken down into two general categories, violent crime and property crime, and both categories were down for 2018. Violent crime is down 9% from last year, with forcible rape taking a 30% drop. Homicides were up from 2 to 5 in 2018, but police have made arrests in 4 of those cases. Larceny, crimes like purse snatching and shoplifting, did see an increase of 6% and still takes up the bulk of the total crimes with more than 2,400 cases. Fatal overdoses and overdoses in general are also down, but police say it's hard to say if that's connected to any overall drop in crime.
I think there's always going to be a correlation between if you have drugs in any city, which, as you know, there's a problem across the country, you're always going to have some crime that's associated with that. Do I think the lower number of overdoses and fatals directly relate to the decrease in the crime numbers? No, I wouldn't be comfortable to be able to come out and say that.
Police also talked about motor vehicle break-ins and thefts this morning, and they said the majority of those are because people are simply not locking their vehicles. Reporting live in Manchester, I'm Andy Hirschberger, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Submissions sought for New Hampshire Literacy Award. The 13th New Hampshire Literacy Award is looking for submissions. The following categories can be entered by a New Hampshire native or resident: fiction, nonfiction, poetry, children's picture book, and middle grade/young adult books. Submissions must be postmarked by March 22nd. Entries will be read and evaluated by a panel of judges assembled by the New Hampshire Writers Project. Winners will be announced October 5th. There will be a second chance for recognition through the Reader's Choice Awards. Beginning in August, anyone will be able to cast one vote online for their favorite nominee in each category. Phone service restored to 9 southern New Hampshire towns after Consolidated Communications equipment fire. Phone service has been restored to people in a number of southern New Hampshire towns after an equipment fire involving Consolidated Communications Tuesday night. Service was restored around 4:30 a.m. Wednesday. Landline and possible cell phone services provided by Consolidated Communications in Mount Vernon, Amherst, New Boston, Milford, Greenland, Lindenborough, Dunbarton, Ware, and Goffstown were impacted. Residents in these areas were not able to make calls outside of their local area, including calls to 911. And now let's take a look at your U.S. stock market and see how your U.S. stock market closed for this Wednesday evening. And here's a look at your U.S. stock market for this Wednesday evening. Your Dow Jones Industrial Average closed in the red and went down. Your Nasdaq closed in the red and went down. S&P 500 closed in the red and went down. Gold closed in the green and went up. Oil closed in the red and went down. U.S. 10-year closed flat. Euro/USD closed in the green and went up. And VIX closed in the green and went up. Stocks post 3-day losing streak as Wall Street look for more clues on U.S.-China trade. Stocks fell on Wednesday with the major indexes posting their third consecutive decline as investors took a breather following sharp gains this year. Wall Street also sought further indication that a trade deal between China and U.S. could be reached in the near future. Investigators looking into lawyers' contacts with Cohen after FBI raids. In the weeks following the federal raids on former Michael Cohen's law office and residence last April, President Donald Trump's former lawyer and confidant was contacted by 2 New York attorneys who claimed to be in close contact with Rudy Giuliani, the current personal attorney to Trump, according to sources with direct knowledge of the discussion. And that does it for the Riley King Newscast right here on the Riley King Network. I hope you all have a great rest of your Wednesday evening, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another newscast. And I have a news report coming up in a little bit. Good night, everyone. Bye.